This is not the time to go off course. This is not the time to lose your focus. Got a work to do for the Lord. And you can't
My BC invaded my AD, and I proceeded to try to get in the scuffle with everybody. I wasn't gonna let my friends back then go down like that, and I didn't want nobody to say I was a punk either, so I jumped right into it. And my friend's sister grabbed me from behind, and underneath their steps there was like a closet, and she pulled me in the closet, and she was smaller than I was, and I don't know, I guess it was the Lord or an angel or somebody gave her strength to literally hold me down and stop me from getting up and getting involved in the scuffle. And after they left out, all of a sudden she released me, and I got up and I came out, and I was, ready to go into fight mode again. And it's like all the lights were on me, all their attention was on me. And I remember one of the friends of mine back then said, "Reed, what you doing here, man?" He said, "You don't belong here, man. Go here home." And I felt offended first of all, when he said it. And I felt like, what, you ostracizing me? I didn't know that God was all in that. But I went home, and that night I walked from that corner. He lived on one corner of Ruby Street. And back then, my mother and I, we lived on the other corner. My sisters and brothers, we lived at the other corner. It was the longest walk that I had. And when I got in the house, I noticed that my sweater was ripped. And I don't know how, but I had a scrape on my arm. It was bleeding a little bit, so it's a white sweater too, a white Arnold Palmer. You believe it? And I went and I got into the bathroom, and I took off my sweater, and I was trying to do it quietly. My mother tapped on the door, and she saw the scar. She had tears running down her face, and she said, "Son, you can't run from God." And she says, "Your arms are too short to box with God." And she walked out. And I looked in the mirror, and I broke. I started crying. I started weeping uncontrollably. And that day, I surrendered. Gave my life, every aspect of my life, to the Lord. And from there, I was going to Bible college, and I was working, but going to Bible college, and I was struggling, trying to hold down a full-time job and go to full-time Bible college. And I remember going to a chapel. It was a Spiritual Life Week conference that they used to have. And a man from Dallas, Texas, by the name of Howard Hendricks. He was a professor at Dallas Theological Seminary back then. And since then, he's gone on to be with the Lord as well. We were, in the Presbyterian church across the street from the school. Church is still there. The other day, my wife remembered that we're down there, and I said, "Yeah, that was a church." She said, "Yeah, that's the church we went to." I said, "Yep." And school's no longer there, but church is. And that day, he preached that whole week, "How big is your God?" out of Hebrews chapter 11. And I can almost remember message after message verbatim, but the culmination of his messages were, "This is the Hall of Fame of faith," he said. And these are all the people that God used to do what it is that he called them to do. He says, if by chance another chapter of the Bible could be written, would you be in the Hall of Fame of faith? Would your name be there? Would you be one of those servants of Christ? And then I remember him also talking about how that none of them were perfect. All of them had flaws. All of them were flawed. But in spite of the flaw, God gave them divine enablement to do what it is that he called them to do. And he concluded by saying, what is God calling you to do? And to what level or degree is he calling you to do it? And it was during that time that I was wrestling with going to school part-time, and I was going to keep my job full-time. The challenge was, how big is your God? Then he quoted someone else. He says, you ought to endeavor great things for God. Then you will expect great things from God. That was as if somebody drove a stake in my heart. And God was saying to me, don't put me second, put me first. I want you to quit that job and believe that I'll take care of you. Now, that was a challenge for me back then because I was never known not to be a worker, never known not to work, never known not to take responsibility. And even though I was from North Philadelphia, Raymond Rosen Projects, my mother used to always tell all of us, he says, we may live in the projects, but the projects don't have to live in you. And so I was very afraid and started thinking about my family, my mom, my sisters and my brothers. They don't think I'm crazy. Lord, if I leave my job and just go to school, how's it going to get paid? How am I going to have, what I was going to have, how I was going to do, what I was going to do. All of those plans went out the window. And he challenged me so that I did what he said by faith. And I quit my job and I started working in the school, in the lunchroom, cooking burgers and, that kind of thing. And naturally the pay was lower than what I was normally getting. That was very humbling. And I'll never forget that it was school day and I went to my mailbox and there was a bill in that mailbox for my tuition. And my resources that I had saved up were starting to deplete. And naturally the bill was more than the resources that I had. So I proceeded to, I went home. Matter of fact, I think that day I walked home from 18th and Arch to 54th and Chester Avenue. And you can imagine I was dialoguing with the Lord, man, arguing, disappointed, hurt. Got to my room upstairs in my bedroom, closed my door, and I held up the bill. I said, Lord, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down in your name. Here's my responsibility. And I just remember you told me that you was going to take care of me. And you said, through Howard Hendricks, if I endeavor great things for you, I need to expect great things from you. And I gave the bill to the Lord, put it up on my desk in my room, and I laid down on my bed and I went to sleep. And I guess I got up around about 9 o'clock because I received a phone call. Didn't have cell phones back then. So a phone call at my house, and it was one of the deacons from my church, my home church, Mount Zion, Deacon Richard Johnson. He called me and said, man, me and my wife was praying and you came to mind. Can you come over to my house? And I said, sure, I can come over to your house. He said, I have something I want to give you. I said, okay. Had no idea what it was. Went over there, it was a check he gave me. The same, more than what I needed to pay their school bill. And that was a start for me to trust God. that he knows what he's doing and he can do what he said. And as a result of it, I'm here. And he has proven himself over and over and over again. And so this is a part of the journey of my call to ministry and call to sharing. And 33 years later, have a wife, children, responsibilities, and I am no ways tired. Not right now. Anyway.
Your destiny is too important to give up for anything. This is not a time to get distracted. No, no, no. This is not a time to go off course. This is not a time to lose your focus. You got a work to do for the Lord. And you can't. Your destiny is too important to give up for anything. Yeah, 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 yeah. This is not the time to get distracted. No, no, no. This is not the time to go off course. No, no. This is not the time to lose your focus. Got a work to do for the Lord.